Going back to that first day in Darwin, we were walking through this field. We were just going to cut through it to go to our next appointment. And we were walking in the middle. All of a sudden, my companion just drops to the ground. I'm like, what the heck? And I look up, and there are these birds just hovering over us. There's about 5 or 6 of them. And they just start just sort of dive bombing us. And we got our backpacks, and we're swinging them over our head and running. We don't even know what's happening. And there are a couple locals that were just sort of laughing at us, and we started talking to them, and they're like, you guys must be not from here. And we're like, yeah, this is our first day here. And he's like, well, those are birds called plovers, and they nest in the fields. And so we were walking right through the middle of their nest, and we had no idea. And if you look up the plover bird on Google, it's Plover. They have these little spikes on their wings. And so they come down and they can sort of spike you in the back of the head or area. And so it was a pretty dangerous situation, but I had no idea. So do your research. Don't let it scare you. Just be educated. Man, you will really have a struggle understanding what some people are saying, because they speak fast, use very different words, but it is a cool experience for sure. I mean, and they love the American accent. They just think we have the coolest accent, and we think they have the coolest accent. It's a really hard accent to pick up. I mean, I came home speaking just like I do now. I had a couple, different words and stuff like that I used, still do, today from what I learned over there. But I wouldn't hate to burst your bubble, but I wouldn't expect to come home speaking with an Australian accent. It's just a really hard accent to pick up and to sort of change. I mean, they talk completely different than we do, but it's a really cool experience. They're the coolest, friendliest people in the world. I mean, you probably heard that, which it's true, and they're the funniest people as well. Holy cow! Almost all of them are just super witty, and they're not afraid to say something that might offend you, and they're gonna crack jokes. And I remember laughing a lot over there, and just from everybody that I met, just because they are just comedians. The whole country, I swear, is really funny, really witty, and they're not afraid to say whatever's on their mind. Their portion sizes, holy cow, are very small compared to ours. When I first got to Adelaide, they took us to Subway, and it was our first sort of meal for lunch, and I just ordered a typical sub and a drink. Finish my drink, I go back up to refill my drink, and the lady's like, oh, are you gonna pay for that? And I'm like, oh no, I'm just getting a refill. And she's like, you need to pay for that. I'm like, I remember looking at her and being like, you guys don't do free refills here? She's like, no, that's the case for everywhere. McDonald's, you name it. You have to pay for every single drink, which is probably a good thing. I ended up honestly losing a little bit of weight out there just because I ate less, a lot less, and it took a while to get used to, for sure, but I mean, it was very beneficial. You will notice a huge difference. Their ice cream is 20 times better than ours. Their chocolate, so much better. They have these things, it's almost like hamburger in terms of like it's available everywhere. It's very quick and easy, but they call them like meat pies. And they're really good. I mean, I love them. You'll love them. Everybody loves them. Just delicious. There's a ton of stuff to do. Holy cow, from going to wildlife parks to see the kangaroos, the koala bears, all the crazy animals that they have over there, to in Darwin, YouTube, the jumping crocodile cruise. If you go up there, this is a must see. You're in this boat, they're dangling like little slabs of meat over the side, and we're talking they're not little crocodiles. Like, they're like 15 feet long crocodiles just jumping out of the water, almost getting their full body out of the water to pick these pieces of meat up. And no joke, sometimes I could reach out and touch the crocodile. There's lots of beaches. We would go play ultimate frisbee on the beach, or football, or just go walk along the beach, or waterfalls, and really, really cool things to do. If you go to Alice Springs, there's Ayers Rock. Look it up. It's a really cool spot. It's, I think, one of the really probably one of the coolest places in the world that you can go to. Street fairs type things where they've got food from all over the world, and just go grab some lunch there. Tons and tons and tons of people. And they have these barbecue pits all over the place, parks, beaches. And you just go, you hit a button, it turns on. And you probably heard a lot about, like, shrimp, sausages, hot dogs. Like, that's their thing. And honestly, not one time did I ever have shrimp on the Barbie. So over there. So I don't know where that came from, but we did have a lot. We did barbecue a ton, but we did a lot of touch rugby. Holy cow, that's a fun sport. They play it all over. Rugby's just so popular there. Cricket, Aussie rules football. So we'd do that too. We'd play that. Cricket, not so much. It's just like a very slow, like baseball. So if baseball's already too slow for you, and cricket's going to be tough. But the other sports, Aussie rules and rugby, they're fun. Holy cow, they're a good time, and they're pretty passionate about their sports over there. So in general, I really did feel pretty safe over there. A lot of their crimes are typical robberies and stuff like that, but in general, I felt really, really safe. We did, unfortunately, in my area, have a break-in. I was with my companion. I'm a very deep sleeper, so I slept through the whole thing. But someone did break into our apartment. There's a whole bunch of chaos, but nothing bad happened, thank goodness. But just keep your doors locked. The typical stuff that you do, but in general, I feel like I felt pretty safe and not really ever in any dangerous situations, thank goodness. Adelaide, Darwin, and Alice Springs are three completely different worlds. Adelaide is hot and dry, and it gets a little bit of cold in their winter, so their seasons are flopped. Christmas is the hottest day of the year. July 4th is pretty cold. So it's a little weird to have that hot Christmas, or have the different seasons that are changed. Alice Springs is almost it's same. It's very dry. It's a lot of red rock, red dirt, the red sand all over the place. It is a different world. And then Darwin is extremely tropical. They have two seasons. They have the wet season and the dry season. That's it. The wet season, it will rain every single day. And if you're from Utah or a drier climate, you don't know what rain is until you've been to Darwin. And it is so wet. I can remember my shoes just being wet every day, just because the air is humid. It's so hard to get stuff to dry. I can remember me and my companion were on our bikes, and this was my first day in Darwin. And it rains during the wet season. It rains every day, but we didn't know that. We both were actually new, and we heard this sound. We're like, "What the heck is that sound?" And we're just sitting on our bikes, and you can hear the rain coming before it even gets to you. That's how hard it rains. And it started pouring on us. Luckily, there are bus stops all over the place that are covered. And so those will be your go-to spots if you get up in Darwin. You'll cruise your bike or run to the bus stop, Usually it'll rain for 10 or 15 minutes and it goes away. But yeah, it's 3 different worlds. It's really cool. If you go to either of them, you will have a very different experience, and they are both all have their positive aspects about them for sure. Very hot in all 3 places, at least in the summer. Hot and humid up in Darwin, hot and dry the other 2 places. So one of the things I thought that, when I got off the plane, I thought I was going to see kangaroos, in the front yards of people's houses. Really is not the case. I mean, they're pretty much like deer, You'll see them, out in the open fields. If you're way out in the middle of nowhere, you'll see them. Unfortunately, they've gotten hit by cars and stuff like that crossing the road. But the main place you'll see them is in the zoo. So you have the chance to go to like some wildlife parks where they just sort of hop around. They don't keep them in little enclosures, which is really nice. You can go feed them and you can pet them and all that stuff. But yeah, don't expect to see just kangaroos all over the place, because that's really not the case. Do your research on poisonous bugs, just different things in Australia. That's something I did not do. And when I look back on my time there were some experiences, now that I've learned of all the poisonous and dangerous things that Australia has, I am blown away that I did not get, bitten by a snake or, crocodiles or whatever, because there are so many different things. And really I was sort of clueless to that and sort of learned as I went. So don't let us scare you, obviously. In Darwin, they have saltwater crocodiles, and they're one of the most aggressive animals in the world. And you'll see all the time on like headlines of the newspaper of like crocodile attacks and stuff like that. And I was just sort of ignorant to it. I can remember we had these little hand fishing reels. It was around like a little spool, and one of them, we just went off the side of this little river that like ran into the beach, and we were right there on the sand just fishing. So many times there have been crocodile attacks or dogs getting, or kangaroos or whatever. And man, I just think about how lucky I was and how it's important to know what your dangers are. Obviously, don't let that deter you or anything like that, but just, educate yourself. I mean, they even have poisonous fish. They have obviously a lot of snakes, a lot of spiders. A lot of their shopping centers they have, you imagine, our shopping mall, but having a Walmart attached to it or a Target attached to it. So you go to one place, you can get everything done, which is really nice.